Hi, welcome to Waylo's Workshop. I'm Waylo, and today we're going to begin our buildup of the Mark II style tanks. I figured I'd show you where we're at in progress here. Now, what I've begun doing is building up the Mark II tanks, the Mark III, and the Martian tripods. So, as we go here, I'm going to show you the buildup of that. So, guys out there who are modelers, you know, you might find some of the things we're doing here interesting. These are pretty sizable tanks, actually. Even though these are set up for 15 millimeter scale, similar to Flames of War, these tanks are much larger because they're based on the World War I tanks. These have slightly been modified, however, as you'll see when we go through the instructions of the gameplay, that the premise of the game is that a second Martian wave has hit Earth. So this is basically the second story following H.G. Wells's War of the Worlds. And this second wave has hit the U.S. and the U.S. has rallied, and they're trying to fend off the invading Martian horde. So these style tanks, as well as some other things that we'll go over through the course of the explanation of how the game plays and the manual for the game, you'll see that the technology is really nifty. I think it's very cool. The whole idea of this I thought was awesome because it's basically Flames of War versus Mars. So I just love the premise of that. I got very excited when I saw it. I just bought it without even knowing what it was about, picked up the box and walked out of the store with it, and I've been waiting to do this forever. Now this month we're also looking at Army Painter, both paint and brushes, and since this is the first gaming system that we're going to fully paint up for you and set up and review as well, I thought that maybe we should start with very simple basic things because I am interested in seeing new people coming to the gaming tables. And one of the things that kind of puts people off is the fact that they, no unpainted miniatures on the gaming tables. So having a real simple way of getting these painted and looking good is something I think I can help you with. We're going to use we're going to do everything with Army Painter. I'm going to use Army Painter brushes. I'm going to use Army Painter paints, as well as the inks. They come in the set. And we're going to just try to go ahead and, weather and mar these things up to look like they're in combat, and just using simple brush techniques and paint and ink, and that's it. I'm not going to reach back and grab an airbrush and try to do anything fancy here or buy any kind of washes or weathering products. I'm going to use just what comes in Army Painter's basic kit and see what kind of results I get on these tanks. So, but first we need to get them built, and the instructions are kind of very simple and plain. So I thought I would go ahead and go take a quick look at the instructions here, and then we'll jump right into cutting them from the sprues, getting the tanks built up, and then going ahead and painting. So hold on one second. Okay, so this is kind of a quick start guide as well as assembly instructions for the tripods and Mark II and Mark III style tanks. Again, this video we're just going to cover the Mark II, and we're going to show you, I've already built two of these. I'm going to build a third one here for you, and then we're going to get all three of them painted and weathered up and looking good like that. But it's relatively simple to put these together, but in case you need a little help, I figured I would go ahead and show you what I did and how I did it to help get you going. So we're going to change cameras and go to an overhead view and enjoy the music. Okay, we're back. I thought I'd go through this real quick with you. As you can see, some of the pieces come in really, really close to the sprue. In fact, it's almost impossible in some instances to be able to get a cutter in between. I have two different cutters. My red ones are my heavy-duty ones. They usually are better for handling and cutting away bigger pieces. These are kind of smaller and thinner. It's easier for me to get in and handle and get a hold of the pieces. In the end though, if you're having difficulty, you can just always use good old X-Acto. This is a number 11 blade. You just slide that carefully in between, hold it down to the cutting mat, and give it a slice. Two things you want to do though is make sure that you're always holding the piece you're cutting as well as the sprue. And in the case of the X-Acto, of course, you want to make sure you're cutting away from yourself and not taking off a finger. But if you watch the video, I'm holding the piece and then I'm coming in with the sprue cutter this way and I'm going and nipping the pieces off. And that's because you don't want this piece to go sailing off and flying into oblivion. In my case, I have a hardwood floor. It'll bounce endlessly and I will never find it. I know I hear a lot of guys out there complaining that they lose pieces into the carpeting, never to be found again. So, that being said, what you then want to do is make sure that when you're taking the pieces from the sprue, that you have something to put the pieces in, particularly if they're small pieces like this. And this is good for modeling practice anywhere. Just take, this is a simple box lid. I use this one and I have another one that's a little bit deeper for bigger pieces. But you don't want these things falling on the floor. You don't want to leave them on the bench top where you're going to knock them and send them sailing or they go rolling off. And again, you can't find them. So that's just kind of a good practice. And what I did was I did one tank at a time. I put the pieces in the box. I clean up the pieces. I assemble the pieces into the tank like this. And then I move on to the next one. And that seems to be the simplest way for me to handle it. Hopefully that helps you. But next what we're going to do is we're going to start cleaning up each of these pieces. Having a good set of files as well as a good set of sanding sticks in different grits usually helps. Another thing that really is helpful is a good sharp knife. Trimming that, especially with plastic, just trimming that away real easy. It's a nice clean way to get a smooth surface. But we'll switch back to the other camera and we'll go through cleaning up all the pieces and then we'll talk about assembly. Okay, one of the things I wanted to show you real quick is the fact that the treads here actually connected to where the sprue was. So in order to remove those marks, what I've used is a needle file. It's kind of a triangle shape, and then what I did was I went in there this way and just tried to just very lightly file that away and clean that up as much as I can so that it looks just like a tread again. And of course, with the weathering and the painting and the primer, we won't see any of this at all. Okay, so that's one thing to take a look at. Now the other is that as we go to assemble this, we want to first try to dry fit these pieces together to make sure that they all do fit, because we might have to go back and remove some material, which is what I found while I was building the tank body. As you go along here and you attempt to put all this together, you're going to find that this does not want to sit right here. And it pushes this piece out. I don't know if you're seeing that. So it pushes this piece out a little bit. So what we need to do is go back in here and remove some of the material inside here. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to go in here and just start scraping to get as much of that material away as we can. And then keep dry assembling this until it fits together in a smooth fashion. Then I'll show you how the tank treads go on. So, you know, it just takes a little fine tuning, but we're just going to keep doing it until it fits and it's got a clean. The front here is going together nicely, as you can see. A little more clean up there, just for what's exposed. This area here is not exposed because the way the treads go on, that goes over it and covers it, so we're not going to have too much of a problem there. But here, the way this closes, we want a good snug fit, and we want this to be as smooth as possible so that we don't have too many issues with seam lines or overlapping gaps. So again, we'll just go back in and remove some more of the material. And again, better to have to go back and fill it here and we have a smooth fit all the way around than it is to try to force these pieces to take a shape that they're not going to. Because the material is in the way of it. So I'd rather remove too much material than actually have the material in the way and then not getting what I want when I'm trying to assemble it. So again, there we go. And we just keep doing this until we get a good, snug, smooth assembly here. Now that's looking pretty good. It's not looking spectacular, but it's looking pretty good. But you can see you still got a bit of a step here, and that's what we're trying to remove. So we'll just keep playing with this and try to remove as much of this material as we can. And again, like I said, you know, this part is the part that takes kind of patience. I had to learn patience with this because not everything is always perfectly form molded and fitted. A lot of times you have to go in and kind of fix things and sand things and fill things in order to make everything work the way it's supposed to work. And you know, that's part of the modeling. I mean, that's what modelers are doing, and when you're building these, you're doing the same work as a modeler. So, you know, that's why we try to include everything here on the channel. So that's getting a little bit closer to what we want. And of course, it's just a matter of having patience doing this. Now I tend to have to clean up everything a couple of hundred times when I work because I just make a mess as I go, but you know, it is a shop, yeah? Okay, so we're almost there. Now the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up the inside of this because I just saw a bit of a... So, Well, that's not a perfectly round shape on the inside, but on the outside, if it gives us the appearance of that round cylinder coming out the back, that's what we're looking for. So it looks like we're making good contact all the way around. We still have a bit of a step on this side. So we're just going to take off a little bit more material and then we should be good. And that looks pretty good. Let's check it out. Okay. There you go. And that's a fit. That's a doer. So now with the rest of it, we're going to go along and we're going to dry fit the pieces on as best we can to see how they fit. So if this is set up right, this piece should go right over. And there you go. And we don't have it sitting funny. The track's not crooked off to the side. And that's what we're looking for. Same thing here. We're going to snap this into place. We want all that to fit right. We don't want it sticking out too much like it's doing there. So is there material in here? Yep, there is. A little bit of material. Sorry about that. Maybe that's what was causing it. Let's see. Yep. So that almost snapped together, if you heard that click. And we're going to put on the remaining piece just to make sure it fits correctly. Oops, upside backwards there. Let's just put that in place. And that looks like a pretty clean setup. The remaining pieces, again, we're just going to go ahead and clean this completely up. Now, once you're done with this, everybody has a different process. Some people wash the parts on the sprue before they begin priming and painting. I do it after I've done all this because you've got all this, you know, dust and shavings and everything else on here. So what I use is a rice strainer. I got it for $1 at a dollar store. And I put all the parts into the rice strainer, wash them off with a little bit of dish soap, and then once they're all dried off, we're ready to go ahead and start gluing up and painting. So that's what we're going to do next. Real quick, I thought I'd take a look at show you these. Again, X-Acto number 11. Revell makes an assorted pack of sanding sticks of all different grits. I really like these. I recommend these. These are sold most places where you're buying models. You'll find them. Hobby Lobby carries them. And then this needle file set cost me like $3, I think, at Harbor Freight. Again, if you go over to waylosworkshop.com, you can go to our links page and you'll find links to all those stores. I don't know if this particular store does mail order business or not. You would have to take a look over on the site and see. But again, you can pick these up most places that carry household supplies, things like this. Very, very handy, very inexpensive. What I like to do is I just go back and I clean these up. I've got small wire brushes. When I'm all done, I usually clean them all up, put them away, and put back into the tool chest they go. So, that being said, like I said, we're going to go ahead and give this thing a bath, and I don't really want to carry the camera into the kitchen, so you're just going to have to trust me on that part. I'm going to take them, give them a bath, get them dried off, and then we'll go on from there. Okay, before we begin assembly, I thought real quick I'd show you how I created the opening in the end of the gun barrel, as well as in the smokestack. And what I'm using here is a small pin vise, and it's got a very small drill bit. And these are made by Army Painter as well. I believe Revell also puts these out, probably other companies as well. But what I did was I just usually start the hole by using something like a push pin here, trying to find center as best I can, and hopefully I got that right, and then just taking the drill bit, setting it to that center mark, and doing the best I can to try to drill that out a little. And as we do that, I made that mark correct, begin removing some of that material, and I'll start looking like the end of a gun barrel. And you don't need to go deep into this, you just need it enough so that when you paint it up, it does look a little bit more like a gun barrel. And that's all I'm really doing there. So you see that? Real quick and easy. Very simple. And I do the same for the smokestack. So again, just another thing you can do to make it, give it a little more sense of realism for gameplay. You know, you paint the end of this, darken it out. Now you can ream this out a little more using the push pin, or in this case I've got a round file, and I can just go ahead and try to make that a little bit more defined and clean the end of that up a little bit better. And if not, if it doesn't come out so good, you can just go back and, you know, go a little bit further in. Just try to keep a straight line there as you're doing it. I think you can see that material coming out there, I hope. Kind of coming out like curly cues on the end of the drill bit there. And there you go. And there's a gun barrel. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with the smokestack, and then come back with clamps and glue, and we'll get things started. Okay, stay tuned. Okay, a couple other things I thought you might find useful before we begin this process of gluing everything together. One is clamps. Now these clamps I got at Harbor Freight. They're this part is metal, the long shaft here. The rest of it seems to be some kind of plastic, and it's plastic tips here. And these are a couple of dollars a piece, very inexpensive. And they're very handy because what happens here is this is a release mechanism. It allows you to slide it back. You can slide it in as close as you need to an item you want to clamp down on. And then by pulling this trigger here, you're just applying that little bit more tension you need to tighten everything up. Now in the case of gluing things together, this is not going to mark up the model or damage the plastic or scratch anything. And then when you're ready to release it, you just pull this back again. You're just releasing this and allowing it to free itself. So this is real handy, these kinds of clamps. I see them sold in modeling stores, and they're usually a lot more expensive than what you're going to find at a place like Harbor Freight. There's probably other stores as well that carry them. Unfortunately, I don't see there's a particular name brand on these because they are so inexpensive. I didn't see anything as far as a company name when I was picking these up. I don't see anything stamped here either. But they are incredibly handy, so be on the lookout for them, and those are very helpful to have. The other thing is that you're going to want to save lids. Lids are very handy in the world of modeling because they allow you to put paint, glue, and in this particular case what we're using is an Instacure glue. This I got from my local gaming supply house. You can find it in hobby stores, stuff like that. Or the other thing you can use is something like this, which is Gorilla Glue. And this is just, again, it's just another type of super glue. This particular one I use for resin kits. Resin and vinyl kits is the type of glue I use for that. This I kind of keep laying around just for building miniature figures and basing them and such. You want to keep the lid tight on these. They tend to dry out if you don't. I cut the tip of this just enough to at an angle where I can get some of the material out, get the glue out on where I can apply it, get things glued together. Then as far as glue applicators, one, you're going to want to use something like a toothpick, which is the simplest, easiest way of doing it. The other is they offer things like this, which are small, different size glue applicators at your local hobby store. These are okay. I mean, they're not really reusable. Where with a toothpick, you know, you're not spending a lot of money. What you don't want to do is try to do this with a bottle of glue and apply it here and hope you're not going to get it to go all over the place, because chances are it's going to, and you're going to have streamers, and you know, it just becomes a mess. It's much easier to deal with it on a basis similar to this, we're just going to go ahead and begin applying glue where it needs to go. Here, here. Gives you much more control. I actually prefer a toothpick to anything I've found out there. I just keep a shaker jar of toothpicks here, the round ones. And then I just go ahead and do like what you're seeing here. It just makes it kind of simple and easy. And then we're just going to put the other half of that together. And I'm just doing the pin areas there. That's all I feel I need to do. So I'm just going to go ahead and hold that for a second. Now you can go ahead and try to clamp that all up. It's not really worth all that effort, to be honest with you, because this stuff does set so fast that you're able to keep going within a few seconds. So like this, that's already set. I'm good. And what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to go ahead and put this on. This is the hatch compartment to get inside for the tank operators. So we want to make sure we know which direction that's going. And in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and put it around the inside of the edge where that piece is going to rest. And again, we're just going to do that nice and easy. We don't want to put too much glue. We just want enough glue to get things bonded together. Now keep in mind, if you paint this prior to using this type of glue will accept paint where when you're modeling it won't. You're actually going to have to, if you're using model glue is made to melt styrene. So now we're going to get that to sit down in there just right, if we can, and you hear that click. Okay, so that piece is in place. So now we're going to go ahead on and take a look at places where, like here for instance, I want to put some super glue or insta glue here on the inside there and on the inside here, because when I do clamp that, I'm going to want it to stay together as close as it can, get as close and as tight as it can. So in fact, let's go ahead and do that right now. We'll just go ahead and glue that piece on the end of this here, and just like that. So now what we've got here is a door, an access hatch to basically stoke the furnace, so to speak. So we're going to glue that on. And again, we just want to make sure everything's straight and even. And once we glue that in place, that's going to be a solid piece right there. And I am happy with that. Okay. So now in the case of the treads, we just want to make sure we grab the right one for the right side here. Now you can either apply that to the outside edge here or to the inside. Because of the way it snaps in, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to apply it to the outside. I'm going to get a little bit more glue here and go ahead and apply this to the outside edge. And again, you know, this is, just take your time, keep it nice and easy. You don't have to put a ton of glue. Again, this is very strong. In fact, I get max cure. So this is a very strong glue. So once this sets, it's not coming apart. So this piece is going to go on here. Again, I'm looking to hear that snap and click. That's a nice tight fit. And now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. And this video is going to be long. Everybody's going to be like, oh my god, does this guy ever stop? Oops, sorry. There we go. Okay. So now in this instance, just want to make sure that fits on there right. See again, we want that to snap into place. And there we got it. Okay, so what's left is to drop this piece in here, which is basically our little another hatch for the driver. And that actually fits in there so tight, I'm not even going to bother gluing it because I don't think that piece is going to come out. Then we have doors. Now these doors, when you put them on, you're going to want the hatch facing backwards, because obviously if the gun is facing forwards this way, they're not going to step out into the line of fire, but rather use the door as a shield as they open it up. So that's how I set mine up. And again, we're just going to go around, and actually, you know what, it's probably better to do it this way. The inside of here. Just go ahead and insert that door and be done. And there you go, door 1. Door 2. And again, you know, you don't have to clamp these. It will probably dry quick enough where we're not going to have to really worry about it. But I'm going to step away for a bit and give this a chance to dry real well. So I'm going to go ahead and clamp it just to show you a way in which you could do these things. So I want to do the doors on the bottom here. So I'm going to clamp through these doors this way. Get that nice and tightened up. And that's it. And then going the other way, I'm going to want to clamp that hatch down. So I'm going to open this up. See how close I can get in on that clamp, on that door. There you go. Do it like that. And we'll just tighten both of those up. And that's good. Now the last thing we got to put in is our little smokestack here, which I'm just going to dip this in the glue here. Swirl it all around, get some glue on there, and go ahead and stick that right in like that. That's all there is to that. And I mean, it is that easy. You can just set this aside and let it set up for whatever length of time you think it needs. In my case, I have a few things I need to do today, so I'm going to go out and take care of that, and then when I come back, off to the spray booth we go. I will be priming these with Vallejo gray primer. I will not be using Army Painter paint because in Chicago here it is wintertime and it's like 3 degrees outside right now, so I don't think I'm going to be able to go out and use any kind of rattle can to prime these. So I'm going to go ahead later this evening, set up my paint booth, spray booth, and go ahead and prime these with a gray primer. So in the next episode we'll show you how to paint them up. So thanks for watching, and comment and subscribe and give us a thumbs up and all the stuff it says here at the end. Okay, bye.